Hello everyone, this video class is on fluoroquinolone antimicrobial agents. Before knowing about any group of antimicrobial agents, it is important for us to know that which bacteria belong to gram-positive, which belong to gram-negative category, which are aerobe and which are anaerobe. So I would suggest to you all that you make a list of gram-positive bacteria, anaerobes, etc. Like gram-positive are Staphylococci, Streptococci, Clostridium, Corynebacterium, etc. Gram-negative include the largest category of Enterobacteriaceae like E. coli, Vibrio cholerae, Salmonella, Shigella. They mainly causes gastrointestinal and urinary tract infections. Gram-negative bacteria also include like Pseudomonas, Haemophilus, Neisseria, etc. Apart from this, it is also important to know about the common causative organisms for various infections. Like upper respiratory tract infections are commonly caused by gram-positive bacteria like Streptococcal pneumoniae. Gastrointestinal infections are commonly caused by gram-negative aerobes like E. coli, Salmonella, Shigella, etc. Skin infections are commonly caused by gram-positive bacteria like Staphylococci. For oral infection, genital infection, usually we have to give an anaerobic coverage because anaerobic bacteria are commonly causative agent for these sites. Coming on to quinolones and fluoroquinolones antibiotic. These are synthetic antimicrobial agents and they have a common quinolone structure. When fluorine is added at the 6th position, it converts quinolones into fluoroquinolones. And fluoroquinolones have a number of advantages over quinolone antibiotics. Like they are high potency agents with expanded spectrum, slow development of resistance, better tissue penetration, and good tolerability. And therefore, fluoroquinolones are more in use nowadays as compared to quinolones. The only antibiotic which is clinically relevant in quinolone group is nalidixic acid. It is mainly active against gram-negative coliforms like E. coli, Proteus, Klebsiella, Shigella, but not Pseudomonas. The most important thing we have to remember about nalidixic acid is that it achieves therapeutic concentration only in urine and gastric lumen. Therefore, it is mainly used in treatment of chronic UTI and gastrointestinal infections like diarrhea. Another thing which we have to remember is that it can cause hemolysis in G6PD deficient individuals and therefore it is contraindicated in such patients as well as in newborns because newborns are deficient in G6PD. So as nalidixic acid does not achieve sufficient concentration in plasma, it is not used for treatment of systemic infection. Fluoroquinolones are categorized into two categories, first generation and second generation. The first generation compounds, they have only one fluorine substitution and they include drugs like norfloxacin, ciprofloxacin, ofloxacin and pfloxacin. First generation compounds are mainly active against gram-negative bacteria. Second generation fluoroquinolones have two or more than two fluorine substitution. They include levofloxacin, prolifloxacin, moxifloxacin, lomifloxacin, spar and gemifloxacin. Second generation compound, they are active not only against gram-negative but also against gram-positive bacteria and some anaerobes as well as they are longer acting. So we need to remember difference between first generation and second generation. First generation compounds are mainly meant for gram-negative infections while second generation compounds, they are effective both against gram-negative as well as gram-positive and also against. Coming on to mechanism of action of fluoroquinolone antibiotics. These antibiotics acts by inhibiting bacterial DNA gyrase enzyme in gram-negative bacteria, and in gram-positive bacteria, topoisomerase 4 inhibition is responsible for their action. Due to inhibition of these enzymes, the DNA is damaged, and damaged DNA signals production of exonucleases. Exonucleases are enzymes which digest the DNA or damaged DNA. As a result, there is cell death, and thus fluoroquinolone antibiotics are bactericidal in nature. We know that DNA is a supercoiled structure. During transcription and replication, DNA has to untangle and open at many places, which introduces positive supercoils in DNA. Now this hampers the DNA action. DNA gyrase comes to the rescue. It nicks the DNA and untangles it by introducing negative supercoils. So we can see here that DNA gyrase nicks the DNA. You can see here that the DNA is nicked. It untangles it by introducing negative supercoils and then again reseals the DNA. This DNA gyrase enzyme has two A subunits and two B subunits. The nicking and resealing action is done by A subunit, and introduction of negative supercoil is done by B subunit. Fluoroquinolones bind to the A subunit and inhibit the nicking and the resealing action of the DNA gyrase enzyme. So the enzyme nicks the DNA, it untangles the DNA and again reseals it, and thus a supercoiled structure is converted into an opened up untangled DNA structure. So DNA gyrase inhibition is responsible for their action in gram-negative bacteria, while inhibition of topoisomerase 4 is responsible in gram-positive bacteria. Topoisomerase 4 is also having a nicking action. It separates the daughter DNA from the mother DNA after replication. Now, as I have already told you, damaged DNA signals exonucleases which digest the damaged DNA, thus causing bactericidal action. Now, mammalian cells have topoisomerase 2 instead of DNA gyrase and topoisomerase 4. This topoisomerase 2 of mammalian cell has very low affinity for fluoroquinolones, and thus they show low toxicity on mammalian cells. Now coming on to individual drugs, first is ciprofloxacin. Ciprofloxacin is considered the prototype drug of fluoroquinolone antibiotics, and as we have already seen, it belongs to first generation of fluoroquinolone antibiotics. And like other members of this group, ciprofloxacin is mainly active against gram-negative aerobes, that is mainly Enterobacteriaceae group and Neisseria group. So its spectrum can be classified into highly susceptible, moderately susceptible or low susceptible microorganisms. The highly susceptible microorganisms are those which are from Enterobacteriaceae group like E. coli, Salmonella, Shigella, Proteus, etc. It is also effective against Neisseria gonorrhoeae, Neisseria meningitidis, H. influenzae, Pseudomonas and atypical microorganisms like Legionella, Mycoplasma, Listeria are moderately susceptible to ciprofloxacin. It is also effective against Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and thus it can be used in treatment of MDR tuberculosis. Gram-positive streptococci, MRSA, they are having low susceptibility or variably susceptible, thus it is not reliable for treatment of gram-positive infections. And anaerobes are largely resistant to ciprofloxacin. Pharmacokinetics of ciprofloxacin. It is having good oral bioavailability between 60 to 80%, but food delays the absorption of ciprofloxacin. It has good tissue penetration and achieves high concentration in lungs, sputum, muscle, prostate, phagocytes, and thus it is a good drug for treatment of systemic infections caused by gram-negative bacteria. It also achieves high concentration in urine and bile, and it is thus very good for treatment of urinary tract infections and biliary infections, which are mainly caused by gram-negative aerobes. But it has low levels in CNS and aqueous humor. 20% of the drug is metabolized and rest of it is excreted unchanged in urine, and during renal failure its doses has to be adjusted accordingly. Usually ciprofloxacin has a good safety profile and side effects are seen in less than 10% of patients. Gastrointestinal side effects include nausea, vomiting, bad taste. As ciprofloxacin and other fluoroquinolones do not affect gut anaerobes, therefore they do not cause antibiotic-associated diarrhea. So diarrhea is not usually a side effect of fluoroquinolone antibiotics. Most of the fluoroquinolones cause central nervous system side effects like headache, restlessness, anxiety, insomnia, and impaired concentration, and very rarely at high concentration they can cause seizures. Hypersensitivity reactions can be seen commonly in the form of skin rashes, pruritus, and even phototoxicity. Tendinitis and tendon rupture is a unique adverse effect of fluoroquinolones, which is more common in elderly people and those who are also taking steroids. Due to this adverse effect, previously fluoroquinolones were contraindicated in children, but nowadays it can be used in children with proper precaution. And because of this adverse effect, they are contraindicated during pregnancy. Ciprofloxacin inhibits metabolizing enzyme and thus it may inhibit the metabolism of theophylline and warfarin and may increase their plasma concentration and may precipitate their toxicity. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, if given along with fluoroquinolones, they may increase their CNS side effects, and drugs like antacid, sucralfate and iron salt may decrease the oral absorption of ciprofloxacin. Coming on to uses and indications. So if we remember the spectrum of individual antibiotic, it will be very easy for us to remember the uses of antibiotic. So as we know that mainly ciprofloxacin is effective against gram-negative bacteria as it belongs to first generation of fluoroquinolones. So it is very important drug for treatment of urinary tract infections, as most of the urinary tract infections are caused by gram-negative bacteria like E. coli, Proteus. It can be used in gonorrhea as it is effective against gram-negative Neisseria gonorrhoeae bacteria, but it is not dependable in its treatment because of development of resistance. It can be used in chancroid, but it is a second-line alternative to ceftriaxone and azithromycin. And as bacterial infections are mainly caused by gram-negative aerobes like E. coli, Salmonella, Shigella, so ciprofloxacin is a very good antibiotic against bacterial infections in the GI. Ciprofloxacin is an alternative drug for treatment of typhoid, as the first-line drug is ceftriaxone. Ciprofloxacin can be used in a dose of 750 mg twice a day for 10 days. It is a very good drug for treatment of carrier state of typhoid as it achieves high concentration in the biliary tract. Bone, soft tissue, gynecological and wound infections are usually having gram-negative bacteria, thus they can well be treated by ciprofloxacin, but prolonged treatment is required and many times an anti-anaerobic drug has to be added for anaerobic coverage. Respiratory infections are usually caused by gram-positive bacteria and therefore ciprofloxacin should not be preferred as a first-line drug for treatment of respiratory infections. Rather, all fluoroquinolones should not be preferred as a first-line drug for treatment of respiratory infections, but yes, they can treat atypical pneumonia caused by Mycoplasma, Chlamydia, Legionella, etc. Though anthrax has been eradicated, but it may be seen as bioterrorism, and ciprofloxacin is the drug of choice for treatment of anthrax. Ciprofloxacin is among the second-line drug for treatment of Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and thus it is one of the important drug in treatment of MDR tuberculosis. So as we all know that it is mainly effective against gram-negative bacteria. So ciprofloxacin can be used in a number of gram-negative infections like gram-negative septicemias or meningitis caused by gram-negative organisms, or prevention of gram-negative infections in patients with low immunity like in neutropenic patients undergoing anti-cancer treatment, or HIV patients. For gram-negative conjunctivitis, topical therapy is advisable. So we have to keep this in mind that it should not be used for minor cases, or it should not be used for gram-positive infections or anaerobic infections. So if we remember the spectrum of ciprofloxacin, and if we have this in mind that basically it is effective against gram-negative bacteria, and second, if we know that gram-negative bacteria are mainly responsible for which type of infections, then it would be very easy for us to remember the uses of ciprofloxacin and other fluoroquinolone. And now coming on to norfloxacin. Similar to nalidixic acid, norfloxacin also achieves therapeutic concentration only in urine and gut lumen, and therefore it is mainly used for treatment of chronic UTI and occasionally for bacterial diarrheas. The main thing about p-floxacin is that it is highly lipid soluble, more lipid soluble than ciprofloxacin, and thus it attains high concentration in the cerebrospinal fluid, and therefore p-floxacin is preferred for treatment of bacterial meningitis as compared to other fluoroquinolones. Ofloxacin also belonged to the first generation of fluoroquinolones, but in comparison to ciprofloxacin, this has less activity against gram-negative bacteria and more activity against gram-positive and anaerobes, and it has high activity against Mycobacterium leprae. The pharmacokinetic features are also slightly different of ofloxacin. It is more lipid soluble, it has higher bioavailability, food does not interfere with absorption of ofloxacin, it is excreted mainly unchanged in urine, and therefore doses need to be reduced in patients of renal failure, and drug interactions are less marked in ofloxacin as compared to ciprofloxacin. Now levofloxacin is the drug of second generation of fluoroquinolones. It is the levo isomer of ofloxacin, thus levofloxacin. It has higher activity against gram-positive bacteria and anaerobes. So apart from gram-negative, it is also active against Streptococcus pneumoniae, M. tuberculosis. It has oral bioavailability of 100%, and as a result, oral dose of levofloxacin and intravenous dose of levofloxacin both are similar. This drug is also excreted unchanged from the kidney, and thus doses need to be reduced in kidney failure, and as it is a longer acting drug, a single daily dose is sufficient. Moxifloxacin also belong to second generation, so active against gram-positive and anaerobes also. Important thing is that it does not achieve high concentration in the urine, and therefore it is not dependable for treatment of urinary tract infections. Now this drug also increases or prolongs QTc interval, and thus it may lead to serious ventricular arrhythmias in individuals who are susceptible for it. Gemifloxacin, another member of second generation of fluoroquinolones, is active against many bacteria which are MDR strains, that is multi-drug resistant, and thus it should be used only in those infections which require broad spectrum coverage and which are thought to be due to multi-drug resistant strains. Its dosage should also be reduced in renal insufficiency, and it also increases QTc interval. Prolifloxacin is a prodrug and it gets converted into ulefloxacin in the body, and it is one of the second generation fluoroquinolone which is claimed not to prolong QTc interval, so there is low risk of development of ventricular arrhythmias by prolifloxacin. Lomifloxacin and sparfloxacin are also second generation fluoroquinolones. Both can increase QTc interval, and as drugs which increase QTc intervals are liable to cause ventricular arrhythmias, they can cause serious arrhythmias, and thus both of these drugs are banned in many countries like USA, in UK and other European countries, but they are still available in India, and therefore they should be used cautiously. Azufloxacin and belofloxacin are recently ended members of second generation of fluoroquinolones. They are broad spectrum antibiotics which are effective against both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria, as well as active against some anaerobes. They are effective against multi-drug resistant strains like Pseudomonas, Klebsiella and even MRSA. Therefore, these antibiotics should not be used for routine treatment of infections or treatment of minor infections. They should be kept reserved for treatment of serious MDR strains bacteria like hospital acquired infections. They are available in India and few other countries, but they are not available in many developed countries because evidence on safety and efficacy of these antibiotics is limited. So now we have come to the end of this lecture. We have to remember some specific points about fluoroquinolones, that they are divided into first generation and second generation. First generation are largely active against gram-negative aerobes, so they should be used in those infections which are known to be caused by gram-negative bacteria. Second generation fluoroquinolones have action extended to gram-positive as well as anaerobes, so they should not be used for minor infections or mild infections which can be treated by other antibiotics. They should be mainly used for infections where broad spectrum coverage is required or where infection is due to multi-drug resistant strains. Fluoroquinolones have long post-antibiotic effect against Enterobacteriaceae, Pseudomonas and Staphylococci. They do not affect protective intestinal bacteria, and thus there is low risk of antibiotic associated diarrhea, and fluoroquinolones also have low risk of mutational and plasmid mediated resistance. So I hope that this class is helpful in understanding fluoroquinolones, their mechanism of action, spectrum and uses. If you have any queries, you all are most welcome. You can ask your queries through WhatsApp or through Google Classroom.